What would happen if heroes from one universe were thrown into the darkest corners of another? If the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo suddenly found themselves in the 41st millennium, a galaxy consumed by endless war, corruption, and the malevolent influence of the warp. The Turtles awoke not in the familiar sewers of New York, but in a shattered city, its buildings twisted by some unknown force, the air thick with ash and the cries of the dying. The sky above was a sickly green, scarred by strange lightning that hummed with a power they could not comprehend. Donatello's eyes darted around the ruined streets, scanning for life signs. "This isn't like anything we've seen," he said, his voice tense. "It's ancient, war-torn, the energy here. It's almost alive." Leonardo rose to his feet, katanas drawn, his leadership instincts already kicking in. "Stay alert. We don't know what's in this world, or why we're here, but one thing is clear, we stick together or we don't survive." The Turtles' first encounter was immediate and violent. From the shadows emerged monstrous figures, mutated beyond recognition, part flesh, part machine, each radiating malevolence. Raphael growled and charged forward, claws slashing through armor that would have torn apart ordinary humans. Michelangelo spun his nunchaku, each strike precise and deadly, even as the creatures advanced with relentless aggression. Donatello hacked into a nearby control panel, manipulating the city's residual machinery to create traps, while Leonardo coordinated their attacks with precision that reflected his deep tactical mind. Even as they fought, the Turtles realized that this world was unlike their own. Technology fused with biology in ways that defied natural law. Weapons fired energy bolts infused with psychic power, and every step they took seemed to echo through some larger, unseen network of control. The city itself felt alive, watching, testing, challenging them. It was then that they encountered the first of the galaxy's denizens, the Adeptus Mechanicus, cybernetic priests, who studied the fusion of flesh and machine with religious reverence. At first wary of these strange green warriors, the Mechanicus soon realized their potential. Leonardo demonstrated leadership, Raphael showed unmatched combat prowess, Donatello's intellect interfaced with machines beyond their time, and Michelangelo displayed agility and unpredictability that none could anticipate. "These mutants," said one of the tech priests, ocular implants scanning them, "they resonate with the energies of the warp. They are anomalies, yes, but also potential weapons." The Turtles, though cautious, accepted this alliance. Donatello immediately began learning the principles of 41st millennium technology, adapting it to enhance their mutagenic powers. Raphael's strength grew under augmented combat training. Michelangelo's agility became almost superhuman, influenced by psychic resonance. And Leonardo honed his strategy, understanding the interplay of war, loyalty, and survival on a galactic scale. Yet, even as they trained, whispers of chaos reached them, rumors of demonic entities stirring in the shadows, of entire systems corrupted, and of a universe that hungered for their destruction. The Turtles realized with chilling clarity that this galaxy was not a place for heroes. It was a crucible, a war without end, and they were anomalies caught in the eye of the storm. Leonardo gathered his brothers in the remnants of a ruined cathedral. "We are not just fighting for survival," he said, voice steady. "We are fighting for this galaxy, for its people, for each other. The challenges ahead will test everything we are, but together we are unstoppable." Raphael cracked his claws. "Then let's show the universe what it means to mess with us." Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku with a grin. "And maybe, just maybe, we still get pizza afterward." Donatello's eyes shone with determination. We've been thrown into the heart of darkness, brothers, but we'll adapt, and we'll survive. And when they come for us, we'll be ready. The shadows of the ruined city shifted as if aware of their determination. From beyond the horizon, something stirred in the warp, a presence ancient, powerful, and patient. The turtles had survived the first trial, but the galaxy had far darker tests in store. And in that moment, the 41st millennium whispered a single truth. Legends had arrived, and the universe would never be the same again. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to face an enemy that isn't just strong, but inescapably inevitable? For Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo, that moment arrived sooner than any of them could have imagined. The whispers of chaos, first faint and subtle, had grown into a roar across the warp currents. Entire sectors had fallen, planets had twisted into grotesque parodies of life, and the turtles, names, though still unknown to most, echoed across the fringes of the Imperium as anomalies that could challenge fate itself. Their first mission, assigned by the Adeptus Mechanicus and sanctioned by a small contingent of Imperial Guard, brought them to the shattered world of Vortum Prime, a hive world that had once thrived on industry but now lay in ruins, its spires jagged and twisted, its population either dead or mutated into something horrifying. Warp energy pulsed like a heartbeat through the surface, and every step the turtles took seemed to draw attention. Leonardo led the way, his katanas glinting with augmented energy fields derived from the Mechanicus technology Donatello had begun to reverse, engineer. Brothers, remember, our priority is reconnaissance first, engagement second. Chaos is cunning, and we don't know the extent of its forces here. Raphael cracked his claws impatiently, the metallic tips catching the dim light. Recon, who cares about recon? I say we carve a path through and let the monsters scream. Michelangelo chuckled, spinning his nunchaku, but the usual levity was gone from his eyes. I like carving paths and screaming monsters, but Leo's right. Let's not die yet. Donatello, already interfacing with the abandoned control networks of the Hive City, tapped into residual energy flows. Sensors are picking up massive psychic spikes ahead. Whoever, or whatever, is behind this isn't just a lieutenant. It's orchestrating the corruption on a planetary scale. We need to be prepared for both physical and psychic assaults. As they advanced through the twisted streets, the first signs of chaos became unmistakable. Buildings seemed to breathe, their surfaces crawling with flesh and machine, fused in impossible combinations. Shadows moved independently, forming into demonic entities with limbs that bent in ways that defied logic. The turtles' enhanced senses, honed through mutagenic adaptation and mechanicus augmentation, allowed them to anticipate attacks, but only just. The first engagement erupted without warning. A horde of infused mutants poured from the alleys, their eyes glowing with malice, their flesh corrupted by warp, tainted mutagen. Raphael leapt into the fray, claws flashing in arcs of pure rage, tearing through the first wave of attackers. Michelangelo danced around the battlefield, striking with unerring speed and precision, turning chaos into opportunity. Donatello activated a series of improvised devices, channeling warp energy to create barriers and traps that shredded the attacking monsters. Leonardo moved like a phantom, coordinating their attacks and striking at weak points, ensuring the brothers moved as one unstoppable unit. Hours, or perhaps minutes, for time itself felt warped past in a blur of violence. The turtles' mutagenic powers, amplified by the psychic resonance of their bond, allowed them to fight in ways that even the Imperium's finest soldiers could not comprehend. Raphael's fury bent reality slightly around him. Michelangelo's unpredictability turned otherwise fatal attacks into opportunities, and Donatello's intellect allowed them to exploit environmental hazards with precision. Leonardo remained the anchor, the strategist who ensured their combined assault struck with lethal efficiency. Finally, the source of the psychic disturbance revealed itself. A Chaos Lieutenant, a corrupted space marine infused with demonic essence, towering over the battlefield like a nightmare made flesh. Its armor was blackened and etched with runes that pulsed with psychic energy, and it carried a massive power halberd that could cleave both matter and spirit with equal ease. Its voice, a chorus of whispers layered into one, echoed directly into their minds. You dare intrude on the dominion of chaos. You are mutations from another universe, and yet I taste your potential. I will devour it. The turtles met the challenge head on. Raphael charged, meeting the lieutenant in brutal combat, claws slicing through cursed ceramite with an explosive fury that sent shockwaves across the ruined streets. Michelangelo struck at its exposed joints, striking with the speed and precision only he could achieve. Donatello manipulated the surrounding ruins, creating traps that destabilized the lieutenant's footing and disrupted its psychic attacks. Leonardo, observing every movement, directed his brothers' coordinated strikes, turning their combined assault into a dance of death that even the Chaos Lieutenant struggled to anticipate. Yet the lieutenant was cunning. Every blow they landed was met with psychic countermeasures reality, warping attacks that threatened to crush their minds, tainted minions that seemed to appear from thin air, and environmental hazards that turned the battlefield into a maze of death. Even the turtles' enhanced abilities were tested to their limits. Hours of brutal calm left the turtles battered and bloodied. Raphael's claws were scorched from psychic backlash. Michelangelo's nunchaku spun with energy, drenched precision. Donatello's cybernetic implants glowed as they pushed beyond safe operational limits, and Leonardo's katanas were nicked and scorched from the lieutenant's halberd. But through it all, their brotherhood proved stronger than the lieutenant's cunning. Finally, Leonardo saw the opening. Now, he shouted. Raphael struck from the front, drawing the lieutenant's attention. Michelangelo darted around the side, targeting the lieutenant's exposed psychic conduits. Donatello triggered an electromagnetic burst through the ruins, disrupting its armor and psychic field. And Leonardo delivered the final strike, driving both katanos deep into the lieutenant's chest, severing the warp-fueled essence that held it together. The creature screamed, a sound that fractured reality itself, before dissolving into the immaterium. The battlefield fell silent. The streets of Vortum Prime were littered with the remnants of the lieutenant's forces, demonic corruption lingering in the air like a sickness. The turtles stood together, battered but unbroken, knowing that this was only the beginning. Chaos was vast, patient, and cunning, and their victory, though significant, had announced their presence to every demon, traitor, and warp entity in the sector. Leonardo turned to his brothers, his voice heavy but resolute. We've won this battle, but the war is only beginning. Whoever sent this lieutenant, and there are others now, knows we exist. The galaxy itself is a storm, and we are at its center. We must grow stronger, smarter, and faster. Our brotherhood is our weapon, and it will be tested like never before. Raphael flexed, bloodied but smiling. Then let them come. Whatever the universe throws at us, we'll tear it apart. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, grinning faintly despite the exhaustion. And hey, after all this, pizza will taste like victory. Donatello's fingers traced residual warp energy patterns in the air. The lieutenant was only a test. The galaxy is full of them, and whatever comes next will be ready. In that moment, the turtles understood the scale of the war they had entered. They were no longer mutants from another world. They were anomalies in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, warriors whose bond could defy gods and demons alike. And as the psychic echoes of the defeated lieutenant faded into the immaterium, a single truth became undeniable. Chaos had noticed them, and the galaxy's darkest forces were converging, waiting for the day when the turtles would face their next, deadliest trial. The victory over the Chaos Lieutenant had brought a momentary sense of triumph, but it was fleeting. Across the Vortum sector, warp storms twisted and churned, signaling that greater forces had taken notice. Entire systems were disappearing, consumed by psychic distortions and demonic incursions. Leonardo studied the reports, his eyes narrowing with grim resolve. "This was just a test," he said. "The lieutenant was only the herald. A full warband is mobilizing, and their power is unlike anything we've faced before." Raphael flexed his claws, a storm of anticipation burning in his eyes. Finally, "I was hoping this would get interesting." Michelangelo's grin was tempered with caution, the humor fading under the weight of the situation. "Yeah, interesting is one way to put it. Deadly is another." Donatello, already scanning residual warp energy and analyzing corrupted battlefield data, frowned. "This warband is coordinated. Their strategy is adaptive. They're learning from our victories and our methods. We're no longer just reacting. We have to anticipate their every move." The turtles' first encounter with the warband came on Zithris Roman 4, a planet whose once thriving industrial cities had been twisted into jagged ruins, rivers of molten psychic energy carving paths through the streets. From orbit, they could see thousands of cultists and demon-kin assembling in formations that defied conventional strategy. Leading them were a cotter of demon-enhanced traitor Astartes, their power amplified by warp-infused relics, their eyes glowing with unholy intelligence. Leonardo gathered his brothers in the command chamber of their cruiser. "We fight as one. Every strike, every maneuver, every decision is coordinated. The warband expects brute force. They'll underestimate what we can do together. We adapt, we evolve, and we strike with precision." Raphael cracked his knuckles, the metallic tips glinting under the vessel's dim lights. "Let's make sure they regret ever hearing about us." Michelangelo spun his nunchaku, a flicker of mischief in his gaze, and maybe afterwards, "We can finally relax just a little." Donatello's hands danced over the interface, pulling schematics and warp. Energy flows into tactical overlays. "The planet's psychic resonance is high. We can use it against them, but we'll have to be careful. One misstep, and this entire world becomes a death trap." The turtles descended into Zithris Roman 4's atmosphere, the sky a sickly swirl of green and black. Warp lightning crackled across the horizon, and the ground itself pulsed with malignant energy. As they landed, the warband emerged, a tidal wave of corruption and fury. Demons shrieked, their forms impossible, limbs bending at unnatural angles, eyes glowing with hunger for destruction. Traitor Astartes advanced with terrifying discipline, their armor scarred by countless battles across the galaxy. Raphael surged forward, his claws cutting through the first line of cultists like a living whirlwind. Michelangelo darted through the chaos, striking at demon-kin with incredible agility, turning each encounter into a calculated maneuver. Donatello manipulated the environment, turning wreckage and machinery into weapons, barriers, and traps that channeled warp energy against their foes. Leonardo moved as the central orchestrator, his katanas striking with perfect timing, guiding each brother's attack to exploit weaknesses and disorient the warband. The battle escalated with ferocity beyond anything they had faced. Warp energy tore through the battlefield, distorting reality and threatening to overwhelm their senses. The turtles' bond, however, proved stronger than the chaos around them. Their mutagenic resonance, amplified by the psychic strain of the battlefield, allowed them to anticipate attacks and counter impossible odds. Raphael's strength carved through the warband's front lines. Michelangelo's unpredictable strikes sowed confusion. Donatello's ingenuity turned traps into lethal instruments, and Leonardo's strategy tied it all together into a unified assault capable of bending the tide. Hours passed, or perhaps days, for time seemed meaningless under the influence of the warp. One by one, the demon, possessed Astartes fell, their psychic screams echoing through the ruins. Cultists scattered, unable to withstand the coordinated might of 4 green warriors who moved as one. But at the heart of the battlefield, a new terror emerged. The demon commander, a being of immense scale, its armor fused with demonic flesh, wielding a massive war scythe that radiated psychic malice. Its presence alone caused the ground to warp, the air to thicken, and the turtles' minds to strain under its psychic assault. Leonardo took a deep breath, steadying himself. This is what we've been preparing for. Focus. We strike together, we strike true, and we will survive. Raphael growled, rushing forward to meet the demon commander head-on. Michelangelo darted through the flanks, targeting exposed warp conduits. Donatello triggered a series of psychic, dampening devices, destabilizing the commander's aura. Leonardo coordinated a final, precise strike, cutting through both flesh and armor with lethal precision. The demon commander let out a scream that seemed to shake reality itself, then dissolved into the immaterium, leaving the turtles standing amidst a battlefield littered with the corpses of Chaos's forces. Zithyrus Roman 4 was scarred beyond repair, but it was liberated for now. Leonardo looked at his brothers, exhaustion etched into every line of their faces. This warband was only the beginning. Chaos knows our names now, and they will not rest. But today we survived, together, and that is what will carry us through the battles to come. Raphael flexed, bloodied but smiling. Then let them bring the next one. We'll shred it. Michelangelo spun his nunchaku, grin returning. Yeah, and maybe we can finally get a little downtime. I could really go for pizza that doesn't taste like ashes. Donatello's eyes glimmered as he scanned residual warp energy. The warband was only a fraction of what's out there. The galaxy is far darker than we imagined, but we adapt, we evolve, and whatever comes next, we'll be ready. As the turtles ascended into orbit, the sky above Zithyrus Roman 4 shimmered with warp energy, and somewhere in the immaterium, whispers carried a single, chilling message. The anomalies from another universe had survived their first true warband, but the greatest horrors of the 41st millennium were only just awakening. Have you ever imagined facing a battle so vast that the entire planet becomes the enemy for Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo? That nightmare had become reality. News reached them from the Imperium. The industrial world of Krivos 9, a planet critical to supply chains across 3-star systems, was under full-scale invasion by a Chaos army. Warp, tainted armies poured from the sky, demonic titans marched across the surface, and psychic storms raged, distorting reality itself. Entire cities were already lost. Leonardo stared at the tactical hologram aboard their cruiser, his jaw tight. This is no ordinary warband. This is a full planetary scale invasion. The Imperium cannot hold Krivos 9 alone. We go in, we hold the line, and we strike at the heart of the corruption. But we must be precise. This battle will test every skill we have. Raphael flexed his claws, anticipation and fury coiling in his muscles. Finally, I was hoping for a fight big enough to feel like war. Michelangelo, spinning his nunchaku, tried to lighten the mood but could not mask the tension. Yeah, big enough to also feel like death, if we mess up, right? Donatello's eyes gleamed with calculation. The psychic activity here is off the charts. We'll need to use every technological and mutagenic advantage we have. Any mistake, and the planet falls. The turtles descended into Krivos 9 aboard a heavily modified dropship, augmented with Mechanicus shielding and wore persistent field generators. Below them, entire cities burned warp, tainted rivers flowed through shattered streets, and titanic demons stalked the rubble, their size rivaling entire buildings. Chaos cultists swarmed in coordinated formations, supported by enhanced vehicles that fired bolts of warp energy capable of leveling entire blocks. From the moment they landed, the turtles were engaged in continuous combat. Raphael tore through squads of demon cultists, each swing of his claws amplified by mutagenic strength and adrenaline. Michelangelo moved fluidly through the battlefield, striking at high-value targets and disrupting enemy formations with a combination of agility and unpredictable attacks. Donatello hacked into corrupted power grids, turning energy weapons and machinery against the invading forces. Leonardo orchestrated the battlefield, directing his brothers with precision, exploiting enemy weaknesses and minimizing collateral damage to surviving civilians. As they fought, the scale of the invasion became horrifyingly clear. A demon prince of Nurgle, a grotesque embodiment of decay and disease, emerged at the heart of Krivos 9's capital. Its presence caused rot to spread instantly, warping buildings, streets, and even the very air around it. Entire regiments of Imperial Guard were decimated simply by its proximity, their minds breaking under the psychic weight of despair and corruption. Leonardo met the challenge with calm determination. We face the prince together. Raphael and Michelangelo engage its minions and keep it distracted. Donatello, find a way to weaken its psychic resonance. I will strike when the opening appears. Timing is everything. The battle escalated to a planetary scale. Raphael and Michelangelo moved like phantoms across ruined streets, slashing, striking, and weaving through enemy ranks. Donatello interfaced with corrupted tech, creating pulse fields that disrupted the prince's psychic aura. Leonardo finally saw the opening, a brief moment when the demon prince's focus shifted, leaving it vulnerable. With coordinated precision, the turtles launched a combined assault. Raphael's claws tore through its armor, Michelangelo struck exposed joints, Donatello destabilized the psychic energy feeding it, and Leonardo delivered a devastating final blow, severing the prince's demonic core. The demon prince screamed, its psychic resonance fracturing the air, before dissolving into the warp. The warband faltered, chaos descending as their leader fell. Krivos 9, though scarred and partially destroyed, had been saved. Breathing heavily, Leonardo looked at his brothers. This was more than a battle, it was a warning. Chaos has armies on a scale we've never faced. The galaxy is shifting, and we are at the center. We must grow stronger, or the next invasion could consume more than a single planet. Raphael's grin was fierce, bloodied hands glinting in the light. Then we get stronger, and let them throw everything at us. We'll tear it apart. Michelangelo, spinning his nunchaku idly, managed a faint smirk. Yeah, and maybe after this, I get some real pizza. Donatello's eyes glimmered with determination. Every battle teaches us something. Every fight strengthens our understanding of chaos. And every victory, no matter how small, is a step toward survival. From orbit, the warp currents pulsed ominously, a reminder that Krivos 9 was only one of countless worlds threatened by chaos. The turtles, though victorious, understood a terrifying truth. The galaxy was full of horrors, each more relentless than the last, and their legend had just begun. As they prepared to leave the planet, Leonardo looked out over the horizon, the ruins of Krivos 9 beneath them. "We fight for the galaxy, brothers, and whatever comes next, we face it together." Somewhere deep in the warp, the echoes of their victories reached entities ancient and malevolent. The turtles had survived a warband and a demon prince. The Imperium cheered, whispered, and trembled. And the shadows stirred, waiting for the day when the teenage mutant ninja turtles would face the next unimaginable horror. The galaxy was no longer a backdrop. It was a battlefield. The turtles had survived their first planetary-scale invasion, but Krivos 9 was only the beginning. Across multiple star systems, warp storms flared, and planets fell to coordinated chaos incursions. Reports poured in from Imperial Intelligence, Mechanicus scouts, and fractured Astra Militarum divisions. Entire fleets were being decimated, psychic storms spreading corruption, and demonic legions marching unchallenged. Leonardo convened his brothers aboard their cruiser, now fully modified with Mechanicus wargear and enhanced mutagenic resonance amplifiers. "The scale of this conflict has changed," he said. "Chaos is no longer testing us. They are mobilizing, and their generals are coordinating. We must move fast, strike decisively, and keep the initiative, or countless worlds will fall." Raphael flexed his claws, a smirk of anticipation on his bloodied face. "Finally, a challenge worthy of us. I say we hit them hard and leave nothing standing." Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, his usual humor tempered by the stakes. Hard and fast with style, right. Donatello's hands danced across the interface, pulling together intelligence from dozens of warp-torn systems. The enemy generals are spreading chaos across multiple star systems. Their psychic interference is unprecedented. We'll need more than strength. We'll need strategy, adaptability, and perfect coordination. The first system they entered was the Drevon Cluster, a region of shattered stars and ruined worlds where demonic legions had entrenched themselves. Entire planets had become fortresses of corruption, their landscapes warped by psychic energy. Imperial forces were holding desperate defensive lines, but even combined fleets and armies were faltering. The turtles struck first on Thyros Roman 9, a mining world whose subterranean tunnels were now infested with demons, bond horrors. Raphael charged through tunnels, tearing through chaos cultists and demonic constructs with raw strength. Michelangelo moved through ventilation shafts and collapsed corridors, striking from unexpected angles, sowing confusion and fear among the enemy. Donatello hacked mining equipment and energy conduits, converting them into improvised weapons capable of stunning or disintegrating the enemy. Leonardo orchestrated the battlefield, directing his brothers with precision, ensuring that their strikes hit maximum effect with minimal wasted energy. They encountered their first coordinated generals, a trio of chaos champions, each empowered by different warp gods. One, a hulking brute channeling Khorne's bloodlust, engaged Raphael in a titanic duel, each strike sending shockwaves through the tunnels. Another, a cunning psyker of Tease, Inch, attempted to ensnare Donatello's mind with psychic traps, which the Tex, Avi Turtle, countered by hacking ambient warp energy into a defensive lattice. The third, a plague-infused monstrosity of Nurgle, advanced toward Michelangelo, spreading rot and disease with every step, only to be out-maneuvered by his agility and unpredictability. The battle tested every skill, every strategy the turtles had honed. Raphael's rage became a weapon of precision. Michelangelo's unpredictability turned enemy coordination into chaos. Donatello's intellect manipulated both tech and psychic energy to their advantage. And Leonardo's tactical genius tied it all together. One by one, the generals fell to the combined might of four brothers who moved as one. But victory came at a cost. Thyros Roman 9 was left in ruins, and the turtles realized that chaos was not acting randomly. They were executing a grand strategy, converging across systems to force the galaxy into submission. Each general they defeated was replaced by a more cunning, more powerful adversary. Leonardo addressed his brothers as they regrouped on the cruiser. This campaign is unlike anything we've faced. Chaos isn't sending waves, they're sending entire fleets, armies, and generals simultaneously. We've survived individual battles, but now we must fight on multiple fronts simultaneously, or the galaxy will fall. Raphael's grin was feral. Then let's make sure they regret spreading themselves so thin. Every general, every demon, let's tear them apart. Michelangelo spun his nunchaku thoughtfully. Yeah, and hopefully, after this, the galaxy owes us at least one decent pizza. Donatello's fingers traced warp currents on the tactical display. Every engagement teaches us something. Every battle strengthens our bond and our abilities. If we continue this way, we may not only survive, we may learn to turn chaos against itself. Their campaign across the Drivon cluster became a legend in the making. They moved from planet to planet, system to system, liberating worlds while engaging generals, demon hosts, and warbands in battles that shook entire star systems. And yet, even as they triumphed, the whispers of something greater echoed through the warp. A convergence of forces far beyond the scale of any single warband, generals, or demon. Leonardo stood on the bridge of their cruiser, looking at the stars stretched before them, each one a potential battlefield. We've proven we can survive, we can adapt, and we can defeat chaos generals. But this is only a prelude. The galaxy's true test is coming, and when it arrives, we will face not just war, bands, or planets, but the full might of the Chaos Pantheon, and we must be ready. Somewhere in the immaterium, the whispers of the Chaos Gods grew louder. The anomalies from another universe had survived planetary scale invasions, warbands, and demon princes. Their presence was now a threat to the plans of the warp itself. And as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles continued their campaign across the shattered stars, one truth became undeniable. The galaxy had never seen warriors like them before, and it was far from over. The Turtles had grown accustomed to war on planetary and system scales, but nothing could have prepared them for the horrors awaiting on Erythros, a world where the warp bled freely into reality. Reports from surviving Imperial forces described impossible geometries, cities twisted into living labyrinths, and a psychic resonance so strong it drove the population mad. Even the Adeptus Mechanicus hesitated to send scouts. The threat was singular, immense, and concentrated. A demon lord, a master of psychic corruption whose mere presence could unravel minds and incite entire populations into chaos-fueled frenzy. Leonardo stood before the tactical holomap aboard their cruiser, studying the convoluted terrain of Erythros. This is unlike any battlefield we've seen. The warp is thick here, almost physical. Every step we take will be contested, not just by enemies, but by the world itself. Brothers, this fight will test not only our combat abilities, but our minds and our bond. We cannot falter. Raphael flexed his claws, energy crackling faintly across their surfaces. Finally, a real fight. I've been waiting for someone, or something, that can actually feel our strength. Michelangelo spun his nunchaku, trying to keep his humor intact. Yeah, I just don't die, okay? Because pizza tastes worse when you're dead. Donatello's eyes were glued to the interface, reading warp energy fluctuations, and mapping psychic interference patterns. The Demon Lord is broadcasting psychic pulses that distort reality. We'll have to move carefully and counter its manipulations. It's smarter than anything we've faced. They descended onto Erythros through a red-tinged atmosphere. The planet writhed under the Demon Lord's influence. Streets folded onto themselves, gravity fluctuated unpredictably, and demonic constructs materialized and vanished at will. Warp-tainted creatures swarmed in endless waves, their minds guided by a force older than the galaxy itself. Raphael charged immediately, tearing through the first wave of attackers with feral precision. Michelangelo struck unpredictably, hitting psychic nodes that amplified the Demon Lord's presence, destabilizing parts of the battlefield to the turtles' advantage. Donatello converted ruined tech into energy barriers and feedback traps, turning the Demon Lord's own minions into liabilities. Leonardo coordinated every strike, guiding his brothers with an almost precognitive sense, anticipating the Demon Lord's moves and adapting to the constantly shifting battlefield. The Demon Lord emerged at the center of the capital, towering over the turtles. Its form was ever shifting. Limbs appeared and vanished, wings folded into its body and then erupted into a mass of warp energy. Its eyes, 4 in number, each glowing a different hue, pulsed with intelligence, malice, and psychic power. With a thought, the turtles felt their worst fears and doubts amplified. Memories of failure, of lost worlds, and of helpless innocence flashed across their minds. Leonardo steadied himself. Focus on each other. Ignore the illusions. Our bond is stronger than its tricks. The battle became a war of perception as much as of strength. Raphael tore through minions while fending off psychic projections that attempted to bend his rage into self-destruction. Michelangelo's movements defied logic, striking simultaneously at multiple weak points while dodging attacks that bent reality itself. Donatello created psychic dampening fields, weakening the Demon Lord's illusions and protecting his brothers' minds. Leonardo exploited the few moments when the creature revealed its physical form, directing coordinated strikes that destabilized its armor and warpen-fused flesh. Hours, or days, time itself fractured under the influence of the warp, passed in a relentless struggle. The Demon Lord's attacks were devastating, ripping apart structures and threatening to pull entire city blocks into the warp. Entire platoons of Imperial forces were annihilated around them. Yet the turtles' bond allowed them to act as a single organism, their mutagenic powers amplified by their trust, courage, and the necessity of survival. Finally, Leonardo saw an opening, a momentary convergence of psychic energy that exposed the Demon Lord's core. Now, all of you together. Raphael struck first, claws slicing through demonic armor, drawing the creature's attention. Michelangelo moved with blinding speed, striking at exposed energy conduits, disrupting the Demon Lord's psychic feedback. Donatello amplified the disrupted energy, turning it into a focused pulse that weakened the entity's form. Leonardo delivered the decisive strike, katanas cleaving into the Demon Lord's warped flesh and severing the psychic nexus, anchoring it to reality. The Demon Lord's scream shook the planet, a sound that tore at mind and spirit alike, before it dissolved into the warp. The psychic storm abated, but Erythros was left scarred beyond recognition. The population was shattered, the world destabilized, but the turtles had survived, and once again, they had turned the tide against forces that could have consumed entire systems. Leonardo looked at his brothers, exhaustion in his posture, but pride in his eyes. This victory proves that we can face horrors no one else can, but it also proves that the galaxy is full of them, The Demon Lord was only one of many. Chaos is coordinating its attacks on a scale we've never imagined. We must continue to grow, continue to fight, and continue to rely on each other. Nothing else will keep us alive. Raphael grinned fiercely, claws still glinting with residual energy. Then we grow, we fight, and we make sure every demon in this galaxy knows who we are. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku slowly, a faint smile returning. Yeah, and maybe, after we save a few more worlds, I can finally get that pizza that doesn't taste like ashes and blood. Donatello's fingers danced over the console, scanning warp currents, psychic remnants, and residual energy from the battle. We've learned, adapted, and survived against unimaginable odds, but the true test lies ahead. The galaxy is vast, and the Chaos Pantheon is patient. Somewhere deep within the warp, echoes of the Demon Lord's destruction reached entities ancient and malevolent. The turtles had survived planetary scale invasions, warbands, and now a Demon Lord. Their presence was no longer a curiosity, it was a threat. And as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles prepared for their next mission, one immutable truth became clear. The galaxy had never faced warriors like them before, and the greatest horrors were still waiting. The galaxy had grown darker. Following their victory on Erythros, the turtles had become a symbol, a thorn in the side of the warp itself. Chaos, patient and cunning, began consolidating its forces. Entire systems were mobilized, demonic legions, traitor fleets, and psychic storms coordinating under a single purpose: eliminate the anomalies from another universe who defied fate itself. Leonardo stood on the bridge of their cruiser, staring at the tactical map displaying the convergence of enemy fleets across 3 sectors. This is no longer isolated battles. Chaos is combining its forces. We are about to face multiple warbands, generals, and demonic entities simultaneously. This will test every skill, every bond we have. Raphael flexed his claws, a mixture of excitement and resolve in his eyes. Finally, they've got a big enough target now. Let's tear it apart. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, his grin strained by tension. Big target, big problem, but I like big challenges. Donatello's hands moved across the interface, analyzing warp currents, enemy formations, and psychic hotspots. This isn't just a battle of strength. It's a war of strategy, intelligence, and adaptability. If we make a single mistake, entire systems will fall. Their first target was the Abyssal Rift, a region of space scarred by centuries of war and warp incursions. Here, Chaos had combined multiple warbands under the command of 3 demon lords, each empowered by a different god. The turtles descended in their cruiser, augmented with Mechanicus shielding and psychic, dampening fields, knowing that the enemy outnumbered them exponentially. The moment they entered the rift, the assault began. Warp storms tore through the void, demonic vessels surged from the immaterium, and countless cultists boarded the turtles' cruiser through riff-generated portals. Raphael tore through boarding parties with raw ferocity, claws glowing as they cut through armor and flesh alike. Michelangelo moved unpredictably, striking at psychic conduits and destabilizing warp-energy nodes that amplified the enemy's power. Donatello converted the ship's systems into weapons of opportunity, turning energy fields, rail systems, and control consoles into traps and countermeasures. Leonardo orchestrated the entire engagement, his strategy anticipating both enemy movement and warp-induced anomalies. As they fought, the 3 demon lords emerged massive reality, warping entities that commanded fleets and psychic storms simultaneously. One was a hulking manifestation of Khorne, a beast of rage and bloodlust. Another, a sleek and cunning tease, Inkian warlord manipulating space, time, and psychic currents. The third, a bloated, Nurglian horror, spreading disease and decay through both ships and crews. Each lord coordinated its minions with terrifying precision, ensuring that every assault was part of a greater plan. The turtles, despite being outnumbered and outmatched in raw numbers, fought with precision and coordination. Raphael's rage became a controlled weapon, cutting through Khorne's champions with astonishing efficiency. Michelangelo's unpredictable attacks disoriented Tzynkian minions, turning their clever tricks against them. Donatello's intellect and technology neutralized Nurglian assaults, protecting civilians and stabilizing key systems. Leonardo remained the central conductor, ensuring their combined strength struck the enemy at its most vulnerable points. Even as they fought, the warp itself reacted. Psychic storms tore through the rift, reality bending and twisting around the battlefield. Time seemed fractured, with seconds stretching into hours. Demons appeared and vanished, entire sections of the battlefield folding in on themselves. Yet, through it all, the turtles' bond and mutual trust allowed them to maintain focus, coordinate attacks, and adapt to the ever-changing horrors around them. Hours passed in a blur of battle. One by one, the demon lords fell. Raphael's claws found the heart of the Khorne manifestation. Michelangelo destabilized the Tzynkian nexus. Donatello ruptured the Nurglian core, and Leonardo delivered decisive strikes that shattered the coherence of all three entities. Their combined victory sent psychic shockwaves across the abyssal rift, scattering cultists, dissolving warp energy anomalies, and stabilizing several threatened systems. Breathing heavily, Leonardo addressed his brothers. "We've survived a combined assault from forces that could have destroyed entire fleets and planets. But this victory comes with a warning. The Chaos Pantheon itself has taken notice. Their attention is no longer on warbands or demon lords. They are aware of us." Raphael's grin was fierce and bloodied. "Then let them come. The bigger they are, the better it feels to tear them down." Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, finally letting a faint laugh escape. "Yeah, and maybe, just maybe, after this battle, the universe owes us a pizza that isn't charred from warp storms." Donatello's fingers danced over the tactical displays, analyzing the remnants of the enemy forces. "This battle has taught us much, but it is only a prelude. The Chaos Gods are patient. They are powerful, and their convergence is inevitable. We must be ready." From the Immaterium, whispers of the turtles' victories spread. The anomalies had survived planetary scale invasions, demon lords, and combined assaults from multiple warbands. Their presence was now a threat to the plans of the Chaos Gods themselves. And as the teenage mutant ninja turtles prepared for the next stage of the war, one truth became undeniable. The galaxy had never faced warriors like them before, and the ultimate confrontation was approaching. The turtles had faced planets falling to chaos, demon lords, warbands, and coordinated assaults, but nothing compared to the intelligence they now received. Deep within the Syndral sector, an entire system had been transformed into a chaos stronghold. Massive fortresses of warped metal and stone floated above shattered planets, tethered to reality by psychic anchors. Warp storms churned perpetually around them, shielding the stronghold from orbital bombardment and concealing its horrors. Leonardo studied the projections aboard their cruiser. This is the heart of the convergence. Every general, every demon, every warped cultist we've faced or avoided has been drawn here. The stronghold is a nexus of corruption, a place where the Chaos Gods themselves direct the battlefield. Our mission: infiltrate, disrupt, and eliminate as much as we can before the warp spreads further. Raphael's claws glinted in the dim light. "Infiltrate? I like smashing doors better, but fine, we'll do it your way, Leo. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku nervously. Yeah, just remember, the bigger the fortress, the bigger the monsters inside, and maybe the more lava. Donatello's eyes were intense, already interfacing with the stronghold's psychic signature. The defenses here are unlike anything we've seen. Warp energy shields, psychic traps, demon, forged machinery. Every step will be a hazard, but we can adapt. We will adapt. The turtles descended through the warp storms to the outer perimeter of the fortress. The air itself was thick with psychic tension, causing headaches, disorientation, and flashes of hallucinations. Reality was warped, corridors shifted, doors led to impossible spaces, and shadows moved with a life of their own. Yet, the turtles' bond allowed them to maintain focus. They moved as one, each brother supporting the others, combining mutagenic enhancements, and learned combat strategies to counter the fortress's traps. Inside, they encountered horrors unlike anything they had faced. Cultists infused with warp energy, demon, possessed warriors, and psychic anomalies assaulted them at every turn. Raphael carved a path through the enemy, his rage allowing him to withstand psychic attacks that would have shattered ordinary minds. Michelangelo's agility turned impossible corridors into opportunities, striking foes that seemed to vanish and reappear at will. Donatello manipulated the fortress's machinery and ambient warp energy, turning traps and psychic nodes against their attackers. Leonardo orchestrated every engagement with surgical precision, ensuring that even in the most chaotic environments, their combined strength was unstoppable. As they reached the central chamber, they faced the true guardian, High General Xyrath, a chaos commander of unimaginable power, infused with energies from all four chaos gods. Xyrath towered over them, a fusion of muscle, metal, and warp essence, his armor etched with runes that pulsed with psychic energy. His voice was a chorus of whispers, each syllable a psychic blow. Ah, the anomalies! I have anticipated your arrival, little warriors. You have survived planetary, scale invasions, demon lords, and warbands, but here, in the heart of chaos, your fate is sealed. The turtles advanced, undaunted. Raphael charged, meeting Xyrath head-on in brutal combat. Michelangelo attacked exposed weak points, moving unpredictably to destabilize the enemy. Donatello amplified their attacks with technological and psychic ingenuity, creating pulses and traps that disrupted Xyrath's form. Leonardo coordinated the strikes, exploiting openings with perfect timing. The battle raged for hours, or perhaps minutes, as time itself seemed fractured in the stronghold. Xyrath's attacks warped reality around them. Corridors shifted, gravity fluctuated, and psychic projections assaulted their minds. Yet the turtles' bond held strong. Every strike, every maneuver, every coordinated attack weakened Xyrath. Finally, Leonardo saw the opening. Brothers, all together now. Raphael's claws struck the heart of Xyrath's armor. Michelangelo tore at exposed warp conduits. Donatello amplified the attacks with energy pulses, and Leonardo delivered a decisive strike that severed the core linking Xyrath to the warp. The Chaos General let out a scream that shattered reality, then disintegrated into the immaterium, leaving behind only echoes of psychic energy. The fortress trembled, and psychic storms began to collapse. The turtles, battered but unbroken, had disrupted the central stronghold of the Chaos Convergence. Yet they knew the battle was far from over. The attention of the Chaos Gods themselves had been drawn. Leonardo gathered his brothers in the shattered command chamber. We've achieved what no one else could, but our enemies are no longer mere generals or warbands. The Chaos Pantheon knows we exist. The next confrontation will test everything, our strength, our minds, and our brotherhood, we must prepare for the ultimate trial. Raphael flexed his claws, determination burning. Let them send their gods, we'll face them, and we'll survive. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, a faint grin returning. Yeah, and maybe, after surviving gods, I can finally get that pizza I've been dreaming about. Donatello's fingers traced the psychic traces left by Xyrath. This fortress was only the first step. The galaxy is vast, and the Chaos Gods are patient. But we are ready. Whatever comes next, we face it together. From the Immaterium, whispers reached the ears of the gods themselves. The anomalies had survived planetary invasions, war bands, demon lords, and even a major chaos stronghold. Their presence was now a threat to the plans of the warp itself. And as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles prepared for the final stages of this war, one truth became undeniable. The ultimate confrontation was imminent, and the galaxy would never be the same. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to face gods themselves and survive? For Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo, that moment had come. After defeating warbands, demon lords, and even the formidable Xyrath within the Fortress of the Damned, the Turtles had gained the attention of the Chaos Pantheon. Across the Immaterium, the four gods, Korn, Tease, Inch, Nurgle, and Slaanesh, awoke to their presence. Entire systems quivered under their psychic gaze. Warp storms erupted in unison, and reality itself began to fracture. The galaxy trembled, and the Turtles stood as the single anomaly threatening the gods' dominion. Leonardo addressed his brothers aboard the cruiser as the warp itself churned outside. "This is it. The gods have noticed us. The universe itself will be their battlefield, and we will be at the center. We cannot fight them as before. We must rely on every skill, every bond, every ounce of mutagenic and psychic strength we possess." Raphael flexed his claws, the tips shimmering with energy. "Finally, they're big, but so are we. Let's tear them apart." Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, masking fear with humor. "Yeah, gods or not, pizza awaits after this, right?" Donatello's eyes scanned warp fluctuations and psychic currents, calculating the impossible. This will not be conventional combat. Every strike, every strategy, every reaction must anticipate the infinite manipulations of the warp itself. One mistake could erase us from existence. They descended into the heart of the warp, where the Chaos God's presence manifested as colossal, incomprehensible entities. Korn's rage boiled as oceans of blood, Tease, Inch, his cunning weaved impossible architectures, Nurgle's decay spread like living miasma, and Slaanesh's excess twisted the very fabric of desire and fear. The Turtles felt their minds assaulted from all directions, reality bending and warping around them. Raphael charged, meeting Korn's avatars in a furious melee. Each strike sent shockwaves through space and psychic waves through their minds. Michelangelo moved unpredictably, striking at the illusions and phantasms conjured by Tease, Inch, turning deception into opportunity. Donatello created psychic dampening fields and converted warp energy into focused counterattacks, neutralizing Nurgle's pestilence and weakening Slaanesh's seductive assaults. Leonardo coordinated the Turtles' strikes with surgical precision, exploiting the briefest vulnerabilities among godly manifestations. The battle escalated beyond comprehension. Space, time, and matter were mere suggestions in the warp's heart. Entire worlds seemed to bend around the conflict, demonic legions appearing and disappearing with chaotic intent. Psychic storms threatened to annihilate their minds. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, the Turtles' bond became their anchor. Their mutual trust, shared history, and brotherhood amplified their abilities. allowing them to act as one in a universe where normal coordination was impossible. Finally, Leonardo saw the opening, a convergence of warp energy where all four gods' influence weakened momentarily. Now, together. Raphael struck Korn's heart with unparalleled strength. Michelangelo shattered T's, Inch's illusions, Donatello disrupted Nergal's psychic anchors, and Leonardo severed Slanish's connection to their immediate battlefield. The combined assault fractured the gods' manifestations, sending shockwaves across the warp and temporarily severing their control over the surrounding systems. The turtles, battered, bloodied, and barely standing, had survived the impossible. For a brief moment, the galaxy, and the warp itself, was free from the direct influence of the Pantheon. But they knew the victory was not final. The Chaos Gods were eternal, patient, and their attention now focused entirely on the anomalies who had dared defy them. Leonardo looked at his brothers, his eyes filled with exhaustion, but also unwavering resolve. We've survived gods. We've proven that even in the face of omnipotence we endure. But this war is far from over. The Pantheon will return, stronger, and we must be ready. Our strength lies not in weapons or mutations, but in each other. Our brotherhood is what will carry us through the darkness. Raphael flexed his claws one last time, fierce and defiant. Then let them come. Whatever they throw at us, we tear it apart. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, finally letting a grin break through. Yeah, and after surviving gods, I think pizza tastes even better. Donatello's fingers traced the psychic echoes left by the Pantheon. We've faced the impossible, survived, and learned. And as long as we stand together, no god or universe can destroy us. Somewhere in the warp, the whispers of the Chaos Gods grew louder, their fury tempered by curiosity. The anomalies from another universe had survived the unthinkable. Their legend had begun. And as the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles prepared for the final chapter of their war, one truth was undeniable. The galaxy would never be the same, and the Turtles' saga was only beginning. Have you ever wondered what it takes to survive when the universe itself rises against you? For Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo, that question had become their reality. The Chaos Pantheon, enraged and fully aware of the anomalies from another universe, had begun a cataclysmic assault across multiple galaxies. Warp storms eclipsed stars, entire fleets were swallowed by psychic tempests, and demonic legions spread corruption faster than any army had ever moved. The Turtles had no allies left, no fleet, no imperium, only each other and their unbreakable bond. Leonardo stood at the helm of their cruiser, scanning the galactic map as the warp roiled violently. This is it. This battle will determine the fate of countless worlds. Chaos is converging, and the Pantheon will not be held back. We have no choice but to confront them directly. Brothers, we fight, not just for survival, but for every life that depends on us. Raphael flexed his claws, their edges gleaming like molten steel. Finally, no hiding, no retreat. We hit them with everything we've got. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku, adrenaline and fear intertwining. Yeah, everything, and then pizza. Definitely pizza. Donatello's fingers danced over consoles, analyzing warp currents, psychic feedback, and potential weak points in the Pantheon's convergence. This is more than strategy. It's mathematics, physics, and intuition combined. We must act as one, or we will be erased from existence. The final battlefield was the heart of the Immaterium, a place where reality itself trembled under the presence of the four Chaos Gods. Stars bent into impossible shapes, planets twisted and folded upon themselves, and rivers of pure warp energy surged like blood through the void. The Turtles descended, their cruiser reinforced with psychic, dampening fields, and mutagenic amplifiers, the only shields against the raw omnipotence surrounding them. The gods manifested fully, colossal beyond comprehension. Khorne's oceans of blood surged with fury. Each his labyrinths of changing reality warped the very fabric of space. Nurgle's decay spread through every atom of matter, and Slaanish's excess of sensation threatened to overwhelm every thought. The turtles felt their minds strained under the psychic weight, yet they moved as one, each brother complementing the other, their unity a beacon against the impossible odds. Raphael met Khorne head-on, claws tearing through oceans of blood and rage, matching the god's fury with raw ferocity. Michelangelo danced through each his illusions, striking at multiple forms simultaneously, disrupting reality itself to create openings. Donatello converted the ambient warp energy into controlled pulses, stabilizing their immediate area and weakening Nurgle's pestilential influence. Leonardo coordinated their strikes, anticipating every movement, predicting the gods' attacks, and weaving a pattern of offense and defense that even the Pantheon could not fully anticipate. Time and space fractured. Every strike echoed across systems. Every maneuver reshaped matter and energy. For a brief moment, the turtles became more than warriors. They became singularities of mutagenic power, psychic resilience, and tactical brilliance. Their bond amplified their abilities to levels beyond comprehension, allowing them to strike at vulnerabilities no one else could perceive. Finally, Leonardo saw the convergence point, the moment when all four gods' energies overlapped. Now, together, everything we are, everything we've learned, everything we fight for. Focus it here. Raphael struck the core of Khorne's manifestation. Michelangelo shattered each his reality, bending constructs. Donatello disrupted Nurgle's psychic anchor, and Leonardo severed Slaanish's influence. A brilliant explosion of warp energy erupted, shaking the immaterium and sending shockwaves across every affected galaxy. The Chaos Pantheon, for the first time in millennia, recoiled. When the light faded, the turtles stood battered but victorious. The gods had been repelled, not destroyed. They were eternal. But the immediate threat to countless worlds had been neutralized. The galaxy, though scarred and trembling, had survived. Leonardo looked at his brothers, exhaustion and pride mixing in his eyes. We've faced the impossible and survived, but the war is never truly over. Chaos will return, and the galaxy will always need defenders. Our legacy is not just in the battles we fight, but in unity, courage, and hope we carry wherever we go. Raphael's grin was fierce, bloodied but triumphant. Then we keep fighting. No matter what they throw at us, we tear it down. Michelangelo twirled his nunchaku slowly, finally letting a laugh escape. Yeah, and maybe, after all that, someone owes us a pizza that hasn't been baked in a warp storm. Donatello's fingers traced residual psychic currents, studying them like a puzzle. We've learned, adapted, and survived beyond all expectation. The galaxy will remember us, and chaos will never forget us. From the Immaterium, whispers of their victories echoed endlessly. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles anomalies from another universe had survived warbands, demon lords, multi-system campaigns, chaos generals, and even direct confrontations with the gods themselves. Their legend was eternal, and as they prepared to leave the heart of the Immaterium, one truth remained. The galaxy had never seen warriors like them before, and it would never be the same again. The turtles had faced the impossible, and in doing so, they had become more than heroes. They had become myth, legend, and the living embodiment of hope in a universe ruled by darkness. Yet in the farthest reaches of the warp, the gods whispered, patient, eternal, and watching. the story of the Green Warriors was not finished. It was only the beginning.